Hello and welcome to Bangladesh Feminist Oral History Project presented by the Bangladesh Feminist Archives. I'm Tanvir Anoy, academic, archivist, activist, and host of this conversation. Through this project, we are documenting and amplifying the voices of Bangladeshi feminists and culture practitioners who have woven justice, memory, and resistance into their work. Today, we are joined by Dibarah Mahboob, a filmmaker and visual anthropologist whose creative practice spans documentary cinema, mural and installation art, and storytelling that explores gender, displacement, environmental justice, and memory. Deborah holds a master's in visual anthropology from Goldsmiths, University of London, where she was a Chevening Scholar, and a bachelor's degree in international relations and philosophy from Mount Holyoke College in US. She's the founder of Deeory Ghor Atelier, a woman and queer-led film and arts collective based in Dhaka. Her latest short film, KRAATI, supported by Bragg James P. Grant Fellowship, won Best First-Time Filmmaker at Barcelona Cine Experience and screened at festivals including Cine Paris, QWOCMAP, and Anatolia International. Her previous work, Hazel, Threads of Love and Anything Can Happen, explored intimacy, transnational identity, and spirituality. Deborah has also produced murals and installations showcased across South Asia in venues like COP28 Dubai, Bengal Art Gallery, and through Fearless Collective's residency in Colombo. Today, she shares how she uses film and public art to document feminist memory, confront environmental collapse, and create space for marginalized voices. Deborah, welcome and thanks for joining us. So, what drew you to both visual anthropology and documentary filmmaking at the intersection of art, gender, and environmental justice?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's always thrilling to hear things you do from the words of other people who are doing amazing work. Honestly, it's been a wild ride, and most of the intersection that you mentioned happened not by a plan, not by a master blueprint or anything like that. It was through actually the cliche of following my own intuition and what drive what drove me to practice or study what I did just previously. So I think while I was at Mount Holyoke, and Mount Holyoke was itself a very unusual college institute, liberal arts college in USA. Like the environment itself was very critical, but also very diverse. I learned how love and friendship could be an act of resistance while I was over there. I started my first activism on Palestine while I was still in Mount Holyoke. I connected with an Israeli gentleman to do that kind of work. So because of Mount Holyoke and just that place and what it stood for, I got to learn early on in life in blurs that the only way forward is to kind of go with uh, the gut feeling of what you like to persist. And for me, it happened to be gender justice. For me, it happened to be about displacement rights and things like that. And while doing the work, the path kind of unfolded. And arts was something I kind of got into after Mount Holyoke. That was the only part of Mount Holyoke that was missing. It was a individual way to kind of manage my own mental health and express what I was feeling. Like I had to come back from the US all those years back. I had a job. I didn't get through the H-1B lottery, and coming back to Bangladesh with these newfound concepts of feminist justice and things like that was a deep chasm in a society like this. And it starts with the chasm you feel with home, with your original birthplace, with family members. And I think I started exploring art as a way to kind of explore that. And yeah, 10 years later, because I stuck with that gut feeling, I'm here talking to you about it.
Thank you so much. And I must say I'm really big fan of your work. So like thank you so much for like being with us and like telling your family story with us. So my next question to you is that how did your academic background, first in international relations and philosophy, and then at Goldsmith, shape your artistic and feminist perspectives?
Okay, yeah, it's a complicated question. Mostly because if you look at it, there isn't a direct connection. But I think Mount Holyoke, I took different kinds of classes within the spectrum of international relations, and I think it was because of the diversity of the classes I took that I qualified for an international relations major, and I ended up majoring in it. I was very drawn to the professors and some of the class material. So history, critical history drew me a lot. Subaltern history, of course, gender studies, anthropology, and philosophy was something. I know it's a very unusual interest, but it was something I was interested in since I was in school in Bangladesh. And I was like, when else am I gonna get the chance to study philosophy under guided teachers and some of the best thinkers in a critical environment? And what those choices helped shape my art journey here today is the ability to think critically, to research well, to critique my own research and critique my own work, and be okay with constructive criticism. Because of that environment and those choices, choosing liberal arts subjects, like liberal arts in the sense that it's a diversity of disciplines under one. It's a cross-disciplinary program, right? So I think for creating that kind of cross-disciplinary thought engagement is important. And when I think about art, I have the backdrop of the political environment and my studies and research on history and philosophy that also guides my thoughts and perspectives. And I think I've still carried forward that practice that I've learned. And to this day, I think I've got to pick Goldsmiths and visual anthropology because of its ability to make me think critically and research critically. Like in Goldsmiths, I had no idea what I was getting into when I first decided I'm gonna do my master's in visual anthropology. It has anthropology and visual in it. I am both working kind of in the hemlines of both of them. Let's go for it. It was a bit like that. I'm speaking very bluntly right now. But I did my research and I got into a few quite renowned institutions, but I picked Goldsmiths because it has the best track record of producing critical thinkers and artists and activists. And just what I expected, I got to learn a lot about positionality of an artist and a researcher. And I think I wouldn't have if I didn't um, do my postgraduate studies in something so critical. So, like, whether I'm doing work with communities as an NGO worker or as an independent person, I really have that acute, conscience in mind of positionality and of doing participatory practices. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think now I naturally lean towards more participatory methods because of that.
Well, It's your feminist oral history interview. Your answer is your story. Okay, so it's fine. No worries. That's amazing. Thank you so much for like answering that. So my next question to you is that so you founded Deeory Ghor Atelier, a woman and queer-led arts collective based in Dhaka. So what motivated you to start this atelier?
I think I personally felt a need for a space, and to be frank, it's still being formed as we speak. When I was making KRAATI, I personally faced a lot of issues on the larger theme of patriarchal backlash. Let's put it this way, and I felt like এরকম একটা space যদি থাকতো কত ভালো হতো, like just even to talk about it, to get support from, like, I don't know, Borobon or something like that, because I had that kind of community space abroad, um, and I to some extent I still do with long distance friendships. If anyone's listening, you know who you are. So I think I want to nurture that kind of space in Bangladesh, and it's still underway. I'm working on a couple of new projects since KRAATI, and I think the way I will put my team together, it will be driven a lot by that kind of manifesto. And I have a couple of really good starting kits. I'll call them that, to kind of help me along, support everyone, support each other along the way. So let's see, it's still taking shape, but I am in conversation with some advisors as well as the people on in Dhaka to see where it takes shape. It'll be a feminist circular kind of structure, not a square one. So it's not going to go step by step. Let's put it that way.
No, no, as a non-binary queer person myself, it's so great to see like this kind that kind of queer-led arts collective is happening right now. And my best wishes to you, and also any help, I'm there for you if you need any help.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you.
No
Thank you.
worries. So, your first shot, Hazel, Threads of Love, exploring intimacy and identity. Anything can happen, woven spirituality. Then came Krati, a direct engagement with gender, environment, and memory. So, how do you select your themes and research environments for these films?
Sure. I think for Hazel and Anything Can Happen, it was a lot to do with the finding the subject. So I didn't want to kind of dictate the story. I wanted the story tellers to dictate their own stories. So it like the entire process of making a documentary with this kind of methodology is that you really need to find someone who's willing to let you in and share their lives. Like, for Hazel, I spent so many weekends. Like, my work was during the week, do classes, I was working like a part-time job alongside my Chevening fellowship stipend to save up money and then go to Scotland in the weekend and live with Hazel essentially. So it was like I think that kind of action built the friendship, the intimacy, which eventually drove the way Hazel kind of like was comfortable in front of the camera, which in reality is me. When we are there, it's me and her. So, like, how do you get people to get comfortable? It's to build that relationship. So before Hazel, there were a lot of other people I really tried to, find a story, but none of them kind of took shape. And it's just like friendship itself, not everyone becomes your close friend, or not everyone becomes your, you know, fair weather friend or anything like that. So that's what led to Hazel. And same thing with Anything Can Happen. The broccoli man from Brick Lane let us in because you were Bengalis in Brick Lane. Woohoo! So we started having a conversation, and he's like, come into my shop, and me and my friend, we started filming, and that's how anything can happen. Any it did happen. So yeah.
Thank you. So, what were key challenges and discoveries in making KRAATI, and how did festival recognition influence your practice?
Oh, thank you for that question. I think before I actually worked on a fiction film, I had a lot of like mental constructs I had to face, like মানে কি মানে মানুষ কি বলবে ভাববে ভালো হবে নাকি, basic stuff. Especially like whenever I was in the early days telling people I'm thinking about making a movie, there were a lot of different kinds of reaction. Most of them were like, whoa, like, kudos. But a lot of it was like, I could never do that. And that those kind of things, can make you think, am I being like too courageous? Like, what if this turns out to be a joke? But then I was like, what if it is a joke? No, like let it fail. And I think that kind of mentality, the freedom to fall and fail if the whole thing is shit, is sorry for the language, is what led me to even work on something like this, because it's not a story that I've thought about from the beginning of my early days of when I wanted to make films. It's nothing like that. I wanted to tell a story that was authentic to me, my voice, as well as my positionality in society, whatever that means. So I wrote something that happened to me, that happened to people around me. And I think at that point, there was no way for me to realize the universality the story could have, right? Like I said, like having that trust in yourself can help you take really big leaps of faith. And while actually working on it, I mean, I really, whatever team I had at that point, it was just a product of luck and proximity. Whoever I knew was, barely connected to film, I would reach out to them and ask them if they could work. And like that, like a lot of the people I reached out couldn't end up, working because of their own schedules. Some of them that did, it didn't work out because we had no idea if the work chemistry, the work ethic was going to align. But deeper in, and I've also never been in a position where I was the director as well as the writer. The complete like godlike perspective is necessary, which means your stress management, everything, your entire pulse, it dictates the art form, right? So these are challenges that I face, like managing artists, managing artist egos, understanding how gender itself can play a role for women in leadership positions, and and I think that's what also led to the emergence of my desire to have a collective space, so that these are learnings that I can incorporate, but also hold myself accountable. In the future, there has to be accountability measures. I used to be in a number of other feminist collectives, and I think it's important in our kind of communities for the existence of feminist-led spaces and collectives and organizations. But now it's even more necessary to have a second degree of accountability, of self-criticism, of you know of improvement and evolution and growth. And you can't do that if you believe that you are already perfect, and oh, we've had so much success, like what my method is the right way. No, I've seen things get dwindled and morale get lower in those kind of spaces because of that kind of ego. And as feminists, if we demand a more just world, we need to also demand more justice from ourselves on a continuous basis. Yeah.
Thank you. That was a really powerful answer. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And all the best of with you with KRAATI, and we want to see more of your work, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you have created murals and installations shown at COP28 Dubai and Bengal Art Gallery and during the Fearless Collective Residency in Colombo. So why is public art, particularly feminist and site-specific, so important for you?
So I think the last 10 years, whoever has worked in the realm of public art will know that it was very different, right? To erect a mural, especially in contexts like Bangladesh, itself is an act of resistance. I mean, we were in a fascist government. Um, and to be honest, the fact that there's still issues finding wall space and doing iconography in Bangladesh shows that the fascist space has still not left. So I think it's even more necessary for anyone who believes in the power of art and the power of occupying spaces and proving our strength in numbers and in solidarity for the continuation of public art. And it's not just murals, like the kind of work, like for example, Debashish Chakraborty and other artists are doing, even through AI. I'm not saying that AI art is good or bad. I'm saying that the existence itself is resistance when the forces that are working to diminish those voices and the diversity is very strong as well. So I think for public art in particular, why I picked it, I mean, my last 10 years of visual art practice was mostly informed by painting, and I found a very interesting and not common yet way in Bangladesh to kind of amplify voices. And then when I first found the Fearless Collective, Shiloh was working very much around the globe, and with like very a lot of like humane methodology, and like people were so I think me as one of the first cohorts in the Fearless Collective, we got to really experience something crazy in Sri Lanka. When we went, we had no plans, but there was a revolution unfolding, and while we still had to work on the 70-foot mural, we saw the effect it had on the protesting communities, and we were working out of uh, kind of the coral of Colombo, and we saw how it affected the communities positively. So I think the existence itself is an act of resistance. And while I personally felt maybe after July, like now it's time for a new crop of new public art artists to come and do it. But I think, well, let's be honest, the way the turn the socio-political climate has taken, I think there's still a lot of work to be done, a lot more amplification left. Um, yeah, I guess now my practice will evolve to include more kind of sensorial elements in my public art making. And I'm also moving a little bit away from purely murals. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And mural has strong power, and I think during the student protest that really proved us, right? And thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and thank you so much for doing those work.
Yeah, and the fact that it gets silenced, the
Oh,
fact that there is all of that itself shows that why are you trying to silence something that's powerful?
mm,
And I just want to mention something funny. Whenever me or any of my artist friends, Papia, like whenever we look for an art wall space and it's empty and beautiful, it could be made more beautiful with an artwork. The something that keeps coming forward is মানুষের চেহারা আঁকা যাবে না. I don't understand a country which is plastered with the faces of political candidates gets the audacity to say stuff like this, যে মানুষের চেহারা চিত্র করা যাবে না. So
That's very
yeah,
hilarious because in one poster you can see there are like 8 to 9 or like 10 people are like, in a poster, right? Like like the political
an
poster, right?
advertisement.
Yeah. Like yeah, that's really ironic, I would say. Um
Yeah.
so Deborah, so you are now developing a feature-length documentary and a new short addressing patriarchy, environmental degradation, and decolonial narratives. So how do you envision films that speaks to ecological justice and gendered violence in a post-colonial context?
Oh, so I think any of us, like any of us who work in these kind of critical environments, critical academia, critical academic environments, um, we often feel a divorce in what we study and how much work we can do, our agency, especially through institutions, right? I have had the pleasure and good fortune to work in some of the institutions that are actually that do great critical work, like Doctors Without Borders, MSF. Like I am so blessed to be able to say that, like, this is one of the few organizations where I've seen the amount of work and reflexivity and self-questioning put into the collection of any documentation, whether that's visual or written or anything. So I think for Bangladesh, I want to kind of extend what I learned from institutional practice as well as academic learning, and kind of work on and kind of set these standards and ethics myself. So the feature that I am working on, I won't just call it a feature, because I mean it's going to take at least 2 to 3 years to be properly filmed, because I will be following the the protagonist in question over that course of time to really get authentic story and connection with that person. And I think devoting time and critical thinking itself can lead a lot of the filmmaker's own reflexivity. But I'm also working with a professor of Indigenous Studies in Canada, as well as my a former professor from Goldsmiths, to kind of stay accountable. I really want to live by the examples that I've learned, and filmmakers who inspire me are not just the filmmakers we see on big screen, on silver screen, like there's a lot of different kinds of filmmakers. Like Friedrich Wiseman is a filmmaker discovered at Goldsmiths, and he's barely known, by most people, but his documentaries are, used as academic documents in conferences and stuff. I want basically good productions like that coming from Bangladesh, told by Bangladeshis. And I also think it's important to remember that as Bengalis who often go to these indigenous communities and do, find stories, it's really important to have good examples of having a good connection with the community and giving back and leading by that example, because, like, there's a lot of commercial inserting in those spaces as well. And a lot of these communities, especially from what I learned from my Indigenous Studies scholar advisor, uh, is that these communities allow these people into their lives and stuff, and then they just uproot themselves once they're done, and that's an extractive practice. And I think, one day, if that documentary, if it becomes something, if it becomes a good piece of document, then it will be also easier to lead by that example. And I don't know if it will happen or not, but I'm certainly going to try.
Thank you so much. So, for emerging feminist filmmakers and visual anthropologists in Bangladesh and beyond, what do you see as the most powerful entry points for using art to resist and record?
I think it is putting down the phone and doing it.
Mm,
That's it. It is as simple as doing it. I don't think I am some super intelligent genius or anything, but what I have is I am very resilient. I am very dogged, and I have worked. I give myself a certain time span to work on something and not beyond it. And funny enough, I saw Doechi also. Doechi, the artist, she mentioned she used this approach, and I really like that approach because I give myself a finite time to do something, whether I master it by then or not, and then move on because I have a lot of different interests, 7,000 tabs in my head open. So then I can move on to the next one. But you could be someone who is better at, focusing down on one thing and going really deep into that. And you have to find what makes you tick and being honest about it. And, you know, sometimes saying no to hanging out with your friends. And if they go like, oh, you're so boring, being okay with that. My friends call me boring all the time. And it's okay. It's okay. I am boring and I own it. So own yourself. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, the last question to you, it would be, what are your hopes for feminist storytelling in the coming decade?
I hope for a lot more voices, and I hope for a lot more just I what I hope for on honestly speaking, in the next 10 years, I don't want to be known as a feminist filmmaker. I want to be known as a great filmmaker. Oh, she's a great, they're a great filmmaker, great storyteller. The fact that now I have to use this label, it's going to get tiring for me because I want to be known for my work rather than what my gender is or what my politics is. My politics will evolve as well. Like the last 10 years, I focused mostly on gender justice, but now I'm inching more into climate justice and indigenous justice. And just because I feel like it's something that should demand my attention more right now, and that's also okay. I hope as we move forward, we get more authentic in our practice and in our ways of seeing the world, and we evolve out of the need for limiting labels on ourselves and onto others. That's my hope. That growth in society.
Uh, Thank you, Deborah. Any last words from your side? Do you want to share anything particular?
Um, I really hope to find more empowered women. Not the word empowered. I want to work with a lot more women and people who identify with, gender justice, with climate justice. I don't know how to find you guys. Reach out to me. Show me your work. I want to collaborate. I want people who want to collaborate, but with the ability to be collaborative, be supportive, and be critical about themselves as well as the collective and the work. So I don't know how to find you guys. If you're hearing me out, send me a
Absolutely, Deborah. Thank you so
hi.
much for your vision, creativity, and labor of bringing memory, the labor of bringing memory, environment, and gender justice together through art and film. Your work reminds us that feminist histories are not only political, they are embodied aesthetic practices of resistance. To everyone watching, this conversation is part of our collective archive. Subscribe to Bangladesh Feminist Archives YouTube channel and continue to share these stories. Thank you again, Dibarah, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great pleasure.
Again, thank you so much. I'm really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.